your own documentation website. Coming up next is a session that focuses on setting up a documentation site using Read the Docs, combining RST files with Github, a practical guide to boost writers' confidence in implementation.
Leading this session is Balaji Jayaraman, a seasoned technical writer with over 14 years of experience across domains like healthcare, industrial automation, networking, cybersecurity, and more. He's passionate about exploring new trends in technical writing and streamlining the documentation process. Let's welcome Balaji Jayaraman with a huge round of applause. Hello all. Am I audible?
Yes.
And good morning to all of you. And first, thanks for TWT for offering me an opportunity to showcase the session. So, I'd like to ask some questions. How many of you hear about this term Docker scope? Most of them, right? And most of the job description, they try to ask whether you're comfortable working with nodes or working with tools. So how many you consider that as a tool where you can contribute and or it is a tool you can contribute to the documentation? How do you consider it? Do you consider it as a tool or something like you need to learn some programming and then do that stuff? So what's your opinion on it?
Hi,
Yeah.
Balaji. I don't consider it as a tool, but Docker code is, as the name suggests, we are going to write document as the code progresses.
Okay.
Like when the developers they complete their code, they finish their code and build a feature. At the same time, we also finish writing about the specific feature.
Okay.
So that's my understanding.
Sure. So let's just break it up what we understood so far. And so this session is not about the theoretical session. What I did was I practically did and then created in form of GIFs. So I don't be working in a laptop to show what exactly we can implement the Docker code. So let's get started. So how many times we encounter the state like the documentation is out of date? Like it's not updated or some updates are missing or you need to track a different team to find out what's happening. So quite a lot of times at the end of the release we may have some typo errors to be fixed or something needs to be done at the end, right? So we don't have a publishing or a pipeline where you can contribute and then see the effects in the documentation. So this particular tool has a way to get rid of these things. So let's see how we can automate this stuff here. So the goal of this session is each and everyone can maybe see a Word document. That's what the traditional way we try to document, and whenever we ask to write something, we take a Word document and then do the updates there. But this session is to have the expectation of if you're in a Word, then how to bring up a site, something a documentation site online in a very within 45 minutes. So that's the goal of this session and how we can do that. So in between, what I did was I recorded the session. So I request if you have any questions, you can just park it at the end of the session. So in between, if I answer such questions, there will be out of sync of what I have covered here. So I implemented using Read the Docs. Read the Docs is one particular tool, open source tool, which helps you to implement the Docker code. It's a service where it looks for your repository of docs. Say if I'm storing a particular doc in one particular location, this read the docs knows where it is available. It extracts those source and then publish in a fully functional website. So it's very popular in open source platform where if you're developing an open source software, then if you want to host your documentation to the end users, Read the Docs helps you. So it provides free of cost. It has a community edition as well and enterprise edition as well. So if your organization just don't want to expose the documents to the outside world, then you can go for a premium option where users need to sign up and then have a look of the documentation. And Read the Docs, it supports two different formats. One is pre-structured text and the markdown format as well. So if your organization already have these two formats, you can make use of it. And it's an open source, and if you're free to contribute to their templates and change in the themes and all set of things, so you can actively contribute to the open source and then see what all your requirements are. And it's also flexible according to your organization needs as well. Suppose if you want to match the brand guidelines of your documentation site, it's doable. You don't need a dependency of a third-party vendor to implement it. Or if you want to add certain new tools like in the previous session, as Karnakaran mentioned, you can add the analytics and all the snippet codes inside the open source tool and then make use of how it works. So we have two steps. First step is how to set it up a documentation site, and the second one is how to process the updates. Say you have a documentation change and how to make it alive in the production site. So the first session is about how we set up a documentation site. So we need to sign up a Github account, and there are two processes. One is signing up a Github account, and the other is signing up Read the Docs. So we'll go through what are the steps required in it. First, in creating a Github account, you need to use a template which is given by the Read the Docs template. And with the help of the template, you can create your own repository so that you don't start from the scratch. You already have a backbone so that you can start creating documentation on top of it. And you can make it as a public repository so that when I create a repository from a GitHub, the Read the Docs can access from it. So if you just make it as a private, then Read the Docs cannot access your document in a community edition. So I just make that as a public. So let's see how we can do that. So initially we go for a GitHub and then sign up with an account. Everyone can see? Okay. So sign up with your email, password, and just verify the email, the normal process we have across different sites. And then once you log in, you can access the GitHub repository to find, or you can create a new repository on top of it. So it's a GIF based, so I cannot drag it and move to a proper location. You can see what's the exact name. So once you sign up, you can view the list of repositories within your account, and it helps to create a new repository based on the template given by the Read the Docs. So the next step would be like access the template given by the Read the Docs and then clone the repository for yourself. So here I'll give these links. I need to go to this template. I can use this template and then create a repository where I can start creating my documentation. So the template is already available, it's fully functional. So you can make use of it and create your own repository to start adding your documents. So this important step, like after you create a repository, you make that as a public and then create a repository. So this is important step. If you make it as a private, then Read the Docs may throw an error like it cannot access your repository. So now we completed the first part of signing up a GitHub account. The next one we have RTD account that we call as read the docs, where we sign up again for a read the docs and then connect these two parts. Like I have created a repository in the Github and I need to connect that to the read the docs. So we can go to this site, read the docs and sign up. So here we can see two editions. One is for the community and for the business. So for the demo purposes, I am signing up for a community edition. So since we already have an account with Github, we can sign up using that Github so that it helps to pull all the repositories. You don't need to again sign up with a different account so that you need to do that stuff on your behalf. So once we authorize the read the docs to read our repository, we can sign up with the existing credentials what the Github provides here. So this is the second step in the read docs. After we complete the Github, we need to sign up for a read the docs. So this important part is connecting these two repositories so that it generates a build how the documents are published. So the read the docs, once you sign up and it's ready, you can add a project. And since it's linked to your Github account, it displays the list of repositories. So I created Docker code as one repository in the previous step. So I'm connecting it and continue to be as one of the project. So you can do that multiple times, and I'm just naming that as a staging so that this is a test repository. I can make the changes and then implement the new things. So the moment we connect these two things, the build it gets automatically generated. It takes the source files from your GitHub repository and it displays fully functional website, something like here. So once the build is complete, you can see the view the docs over here. So if you see, you can see the fully functional website is displayed based on the repository name you have mentioned. So of course, read the docs has this other functionality such as creating your own, redirecting to your own domain and having the password and other facilities in the premium plans. But for the community edition, it's good to start. Every writer can follow this and then do the hands-on on the Dockers. So here on the right-hand side menu, I've seen different versions we can maintain within the documentation, and at the same time, you can view a different output format as well. So yeah, now I've created an online help, but you can generate PDF with the existing source content. So let's see how to configure that. So how to configure a PDF output with the same content. So I'm logging to the GitHub and then go to the readthedocs.yaml file. So for that, I don't install anything on my local. What I might do, whatever the list of configuration steps, you can do it online with your browser. So you can edit this particular file and then add these two statements, format is PDF, and then you can commit the changes. So once we commit, these changes are added directly to the repository where you already have. And since there are changes happening in your main branch, it triggers the read the docs build, so that your documentation is it's updated based on the configuration you did. So now I added the configuration of adding a PDF, and we can see the build is automatically it started here just 7 seconds ago, and when you view it, you can see the changes. So that's the power of the Docker code approach, where if you make some changes, you can the build and everything, it happens automatically, and your contents gets refreshed here. So here you can see the PDF download. The content is available in the PDF form for the users, those who want to consume in the PDF way. So this is the first part of the session, where how to set it up a documentation site from the scratch, because we know that we started something. We never install any Python or other dependencies in our local. We sign up with using online web app, and then we started a documentation site. So how do we add an incremental changes in these things? So as I mentioned in this flow diagram, a technical writer typically would create a branch in the repository and then change that particular branch and then make the implemented changes. So once they complete those changes in a Markdown editor or RST editor, and then have those changes committed in the repository. So once these changes move to the main branch, we merge it or we can reject it. So if my documentation is the update is wrong, or if the developer feels like the information is correct, they can simply reject it. And if they try to approve those changes, it gets merged to your main branch. So as I said, whenever there is a change in the main branch, the read the docs automatically it builds the documentation site for you. So we can ensure like all the content is thoroughly reviewed, gone through all the process, and then there is a final check mark in the approval, and whoever takes care of the documentation site can approve and then merge it in the main branch. So once it gets added in the documentation tool, we can see the live content in your production site. So now we see how to create this, the second part. So the first step is we create a branch, and for this again you don't need to download a visual code to set it up this repository and make the changes, because those are some initial friction technical writers face while connecting to an existing repository. You can make use of an online tool, Github.dev, which is available within GitHub, where you can create a branch, make the changes, and then do a lot of things there. So in this demo, I'm going to one of the main branch and try to invoke that editor online. So there is a particular field called github.dev, which opens up your code repository within a browser in a Visual Studio format. So here you can create a branch, because this is your main repository, and I'm now creating a branch so that to implement my changes in a separate branch. So for example, I'm creating a change branch called config changes, and I try to switch that branch so that my main content is not disturbed. Say I have a stable production site and I don't want to mess up with the content which I have. I create a branch and then make those changes. So once I create a branch, it automatically switches to the new branch, where we can create this new addition of new files. You can delete it, you can make the updates. It's a normal editor we use across all the different things. So RST is one particular format which is similar to a Markdown, but Read the Doc supports RST. It's a part of Python community. So all the code generated within the Python or based on the RST files. So you need to learn the syntax of RST files. So it's easy, like if you have a cheat sheet or if you compare the format of the Markdown, it's easy, like relatively what tags or what specific format you need to use to format the content. So as an example, I added one of the RST file .config.rst and then adding that to a TOC. So on the left hand side we have a tree-like structure, and I'm just finalizing where my particular topic should come. So these are the two changes I made, as an assume that it is one of the change which I need to make for the release. So once I create and make the branch, and I'm sure like I can commit these changes because these changes are already reviewed, and then it's okay to go to the production side. So I commit those changes within the same environment as we invoke through the browser. So on the left hand side you can see an icon where it helps you to commit the changes. So before that we can ensure what changes we made over here. It's similar to any code comparison tool, but we can do that online. You need to download any specific software to do that. So I'm ensuring these are two changes, and then adding a comment and then committing it. So once I commit these changes, as I mentioned in the previous workflow, someone needs to approve it, right? So maybe a junior writer or someone who have already completed, and someone has to a final gatekeeper to approve the content, whether it's good to go for a production. So the next step would be like how I can pull request. So in the GitHub terms, we call it as a pull request, but in GitLab, we call it as a merge request as well. So these terms might be interchangeably depending on the repository we are using. But in this case, since Github is available now and it's merged with it, we call it as a pull request. It's something like we are adding the incremental changes contributed by different writers. Say 4 or 5 different writers in your team, and everyone contributed it, and all their changes are lining up as a queue. So if I need to approve the first 3 changes, I can approve it, and I can delete the other, or I can reject the next 2 changes, so that the only reviewed and the confirmed content gets to the production side. So as a final approver, I can see what are the new changes coming in your GitHub repository, and you can see the notification here. When you try to pull a pull request, it shows what are the changes you can help to add it in the main content. And once you approve, you can see this particular button called merge pull request, which helps you to commit that into your main branch. So your particular branch is now merged to the main branch. So as I said earlier, whenever there is a change in the main branch, read the docs listens to it using a webhook. So it understands when the changes are merged into main branch. So that helps read the docs to trigger that build process. So until you merge your code to your main branch, the documentation site is, it will be as it is. Say when your stable production site is there, it will be there, and you stage all these changes in a different server, in a staging server. So once everything gets completed, then we push those staging content to the production. So this is the way the code works in the other environment. Since documentation is also evolving in a similar way, we call this as a doc as code. Like we create a change, we merge it, and then we have a gatekeeper to approve it, and then we merge to the existing branch. So the next step, as I mentioned, the moment we merge the content, read the docs knows about it. So it builds the documentation site for us. So here we can see we can create a project, and it was just built a minute ago. And when we see what are the list of different changes we have, we can see the list of changes in the production side. So now I have added a configuration as one of the new change, which gets displayed over here with the sample content. And we can also ensure like this particular content is already updated in the PDF as well. So I never created a new page in the PDF or other things. It takes from a single source. And whenever I add a new change and then merge it to the main branch, I can see those content gets updated here. So in this way, every writer, they can create their incremental changes and contribute to the documentation of our organization. So have any questions on it, or what are the workflow you step up with, or if you feel confident like you can do this by yourself, because I'll be sharing these PPT with the GIFs. You can follow it up and then see how it works.
What happens to the branch that I created? Does it get automatically deleted, the private branch?
No, we have the option while merging.
Okay, you have the
Yeah,
option while
we have an option whether we can delete the branch or we can just let it in. Because that depends on the practice. Like I'm just implementing my changes for this particular release, and then holding the same branch for the other changes as well. So it's up to organization, but there is a small check mark there.
Okay.
Like delete the branch whenever I'm merging the content. But it's a good practice to delete it.
How big a site can read the doc support? I mean, you might have thousands of pages, right? So
Yeah.
how big it can support?
I've seen some examples across open source community. It has large, it's mostly used for the documentation generators as well. Say when in an SDK or other particular documentation, and the code comments will be there. And it supports the entire code repository. So it picks it up and it generates the RST files. And once we have the RST files, with the help of read docs, we can host it. So I've seen lots and lots of different references being made, and I've seen quite large number it supports. Because it's a static site. It doesn't have interaction with the server, so it doesn't depend on the load.
And is there any functionality to share the site with your end users? Something like that?
I don't really.
I mean, eventually somebody would want to consume the documentation.
Yeah.
So can you share with them this site?
Yes, yeah, you can
It's a
share.
static public
Yeah.
site.
It's a static site. That's what the community edition is. It doesn't have any mechanism to control it. But if you go to a business edition, I think that's around $50 per month. It seems. But you can share that link to a private set of community edition, where they can log in and then see your account, or you can just bypass with the password as well. So it has those features.
Hi, this is Ayan Datta.
Hi.
So my question is regarding Markdown and the merge conflicts we are having.
Okay.
We will have the use doc as well. One thing. Another thing is that Markdown is a plain text usually.
Yeah.
How capable it is to means how capable Markdown is to handle any multimedia files like videos, in screenshots, diagrams, because we see that a lot of cases we actually add
Yeah.
screenshots, and so in those cases how capable it is, and will it have more loading times or something like that?
Okay.
And how we can rectify the merge conflicts, because Docker code is like a shared ownership that we will have.
Yeah.
So how we are planning to do that? Because a lot of people will be involved in modifying the things, whether it's coders or technical writers, and at the end of the day, technical writers has to take care of all the things.
Yeah.
And so, what do you have any strategy that we can follow in that case?
So I would say we need to understand what are the Git basics we have.
Okay.
So if the team is aware of a standard process, like before you create a branch, ensure like you pull the latest content first. It's not only about you are making the changes, but you don't override the other changes as well. So following a proper practice and then like pulling up your repository first and then create a new branch and then following it as a mechanism with some standard checklist. So that helps you to navigate these merge conflicts. And on coming to your second question, yes, we have some disadvantages of having, say, I cannot format as easy or as quickly in a Word format when I do the same in a Markdown or other formats. Because we need to do a different workaround to see what is my content and whether the content has any hyperlinks or it has support snippets. So these are some difficulties where industry itself is evolving. So this is one particular way you can represent the content, but at the same time it's a long run to go, because there are three different formats. One is ASCII doc and the other is RST and the Markdown. So these three different formats are into this space. So it more or less it looks similar, but depending on your context or what your organization needs, then the change, and you need to look for those workarounds. So those are some gray areas which I cannot completely say you can completely move it. But if you want to know how it looks like and whether it fits to your organization, this is one starting point to go with you. Instead of completely ignoring like this is for the programmers or you need support from the software developers, it's one way like you can set it up, you consider this as a tool. Instead of just type it and then save the file, you just commit and then push the changes. So consider that as a base and then explore from there. So that's the motto of the session.
So basically, we need to analyze the project first before we need to.
Yeah, like how quickly you need to update, or what are the other, if you need some fancy stuff like I need a pop-up message or it's context sensitive, those things are not supported. It depends on your organization. You need to analyze and then pick it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Sedunasa. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So I have a few questions here. One is read the docs. So we have some framework. That's how the site appears,
Yeah.
right? So is that customizable?
Yes. Yeah. We do have a .css file within the framework. The framework is what we have for the initial setup of the site. So once we set it up, we can change the CSS file, and it also has the community edition. Some free themes are available, and depending on your brand guidelines, you can customize it as well. Because we started with the basic theme given by the Read the Docs, and we changed to a brand according to the brand guidelines. We made the changes in the CSS and it exists.
Okay. We can add a new CSS as well, right?
Yeah, we have custom CSS. So it supports all the brand guidelines given by the colors, fonts, or if you want to include some JavaScript as well, you can.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was like we use GitLab in our Oxygen or GitHub.
Okay.
We use GitHub architecture. So does this work with that? Like we use GitLab for version controlling and
Yeah.
such things. So will this support that as well? Because from Oxygen data we get XML files which comes into GitLab,
Okay.
and we don't use Markdown and we don't edit there.
Okay.
So will the read the docs support that as well?
As far as I know, it doesn't support data. It's for mostly for the Markdown and .rst files.
Okay,
So
thank you
it
so
doesn't
much.
support the XML because the formatting and everything is different. Data
Yeah, the
manifest
tags
is
are
generated.
different and yeah.
It needs some program to be executed to have your final build as either as a PDF or as an online app. So this is one way you can spin it up with your existing files. Say, take an example like I don't have any idea of a documentation site, and I'm not ready to pay for any documentation site as well. So in that case, you can spin it off and show the demo like you can have your online site without spending on it, and in that way they will they can move it forward with what we do.
Yeah, and this is also wonderful, I feel, because it bypasses the separate publishing process.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
some companies have DevOps do that.
Yeah.
So this is wonderful. Thank you so much.
And we have two different mediums as well, in the staging and the production. So we don't need to think like once we committed the production, changes are reflected in the production system. So we ensure those things and
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the presentation. My name is Joy.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we implement a similar process, publishing pipeline, that is using ASCII.doc, GitLab, and Paraag.
Okay.
That's how we publish it. But here one question what I'm having is in the community edition, like we would require a lot of customizations for web and PDF, right?
Yeah.
So this community edition, does it support these customizations, or we should go with the premium versions of these tools?
So there are specific features which is available on the premium. As far as I see, when you want to host your files in a private repository, so that might be sensitive for the organization. You don't expose your documentation source to the outside world. In that case, it feels like you need to go for a premium so that it accesses your private repositories and then build the documentation. And if you want to protect the site with a password, then it applies in the premium. It's not costly. It's $50 per month when compared to the other tools. So I feel it's the price we pay. It's worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Hari. Thanks for this session actually, because this is new to me, Doxa's code, and it was a good introduction. I have a couple of simple questions, more of curiosity.
Yeah.
So one is when you spoke about the .ed, the tool itself provides tag support, like auto suggestion that comes, because or you have to manually type all that and then introduce the information. So the tags that we have to use for Markdown,
Yeah.
the tool itself provides that auto suggestion?
No, read the docs is not a tool. It's we can consider that as something like a build tool.
Mm-hmm.
So once it just listens for your main branch.
Okay.
So it sees whether there is change in the main branch, then it's a time to build my documentation. It's simple like a Jenkins server or something like you build it and then run it. RST files, it's up to you what kind of the editors you want to use. You can use Visual Code or Sublime Text, or there are some locally available the viewers as well. So instead of you change something and then deploy it and see how it works in the site, you can see it on your local machine as well. So you see whether your formatting is good or it disturbs something, or when I achieved certain format in a particular way, you can see it on a local. And once you finalize, then you push it to the staging and see. So there are multiple level of checks you can accommodate. It's not like we commit and then see the changes.
Okay, thanks. And the question is, how good is it with the GenA, the latest? So, is it integratable or is it already done? Have you tried it?
I don't find such examples over here because it's mostly preferable by companies those who want to display their content in an SDK when they want to publish the SDK and API documentation. The SDK has this code generators within the code for every function, for every parameter or error code. They try to generate within the code, and this particular format it pulls it up. and it hosts that to the external audience. So in that case, you need other tools to integrate with, to go through the content, scan it, and then do it. And right now, we don't have any support for AI based. Because their audience is something different, those who want to post the SD and others. Yeah. Because AI comes with other an enterprise level documentation tool where they expect those features. Sure. And just have resources as well. So if you're not familiar with Git basics, these are something like under 10 minutes you can learn what are things required in Git to do that. And there are some cheat sheets as well, which help you to format the documents the way you take that. Thank you. Thanks for your session.